What if I told you the Brandon Aiyuk era in San Francisco might already be over, and nobody is saying it out loud? Behind the scenes, the San Francisco 49ers are making aggressive moves that feel less like support and more like a quiet replacement plan. But the real reason behind this shift is something fans aren't seeing yet. What if the San Francisco 49ers didn't actually fix their receiver problem this offseason, but instead quietly delayed it? On the surface, bringing in proven names like Mike Evans and Christian Kirk looks like a win-now move. Veteran production, experience, stability. But look closer and it starts to feel very different. These aren't long-term building blocks. These are short-term answers. Both players are established, respected, and still productive, but they're not the future of this offense. And that changes how you should view everything the 49ers are doing right now. Because this might not be about contending today, it might be about preparing for what comes next. Inside the building, this kind of move creates a very specific dynamic. Veterans step in as leaders, not just playmakers. They set the tone, teach the system, and raise the standard for younger players who haven't arrived yet. It's less about dominating defenses right now and more about shaping the next generation before they ever take over. And that's where it gets interesting. The 49ers aren't just adding receivers, they're building a transition phase, a bridge between eras, a temporary layer designed to keep the offense stable while something bigger develops underneath. Because when you combine these signings with their heavy interest in drafting multiple wide receivers, the message becomes clear: change is coming. Quietly, gradually, but definitely. Some fans see Evans and Kirk and think the problem is solved, but others are starting to question it. Why invest in veterans and still aggressively scout rookies at every level of the draft? That's not a team that feels secure, that's a team preparing for turnover. And if this really is a bridge plan, then the biggest question isn't what these veterans will do. It's who they're secretly being brought in to replace. What if the rise of Brock Purdy is quietly forcing the San Francisco 49ers to completely rethink their offense, and nobody is talking about it? For years, this team was built around yards after the catch. Get the ball out quickly, let playmakers do the rest. That identity defined everything from play calling to roster construction. It's what made the offense feel fast, unpredictable, and almost impossible to stop at its peak. But now, the numbers are telling a different story. Purdy isn't just efficient, he's elite at something this system never fully relied on before: pushing the ball downfield. Season after season, he's been near the top of the league in completion rate on throws 10+ yards downfield. That's not just good, that's a signal. A signal that this offense doesn't have to live in the short game anymore. And when your quarterback proves he can consistently hit deeper windows, everything changes. The types of receivers you prioritize start to shift. Route trees expand. Defensive pressure points move. Suddenly, you're not just looking for guys who can create after the catch, you're looking for players who can win vertically, stretch defenses, and capitalize on precision throws downfield. That's a completely different blueprint. And it explains a lot of what we're seeing right now. The 49ers aren't just adding wide receivers, they're targeting a different kind of wide receiver. Bigger frames, more speed, more ability to track the deep ball and separate late in routes. It's subtle, but it's happening. Because when your quarterback evolves, your offense has no choice but to evolve with him. The scary part, this transition isn't fully complete yet. There's still a gap between what Purdy does best and what the current roster is built to maximize. And until that gap is closed, the offense might not reach its true ceiling. But the moment they fully commit to this new identity, everything could change overnight. What if the San Francisco 49ers aren't just planning to draft a wide receiver, but are actually preparing to attack the position at every single level of the draft? Because that's exactly what the signs are pointing to. Most teams bring in a handful of prospects before the draft. It's routine, but what the 49ers are doing right now feels different. Out of their known visits, a majority are wide receivers and not just one type. We're talking about first-round talent, mid-round playmakers, and even late-round developmental prospects. That's not SLUCHE a Kratkoi Nyeru a Kratkoi scouting, that's layered strategy. At the top, you have names like Denzel Boston, big-bodied physical targets who could immediately step into a major role. Then there's dynamic separators like Casey Conception who bring versatility and special teams impact. And players like Omar Cooper Jr., who can create after the catch and bring back that missing explosiveness. But then it goes even deeper. The visit with Caleb Douglas reveals something most people are overlooking. He's not projected as an early pick. In fact, he could fall to the later rounds or even slip out of the draft entirely, yet the 49ers still brought him in. That changes everything. Because now it's clear they're not locked into one plan, they're preparing for every scenario. If a top receiver falls, they're ready. If the board doesn't break their way, they pivot. If value shows up late, they strike again. This is about flexibility, not prediction. And it also hints at something bigger. They might not be satisfied with adding just one receiver. This could be a multi-layer rebuild of the entire room, injecting youth, competition, and different skill sets all at once. Which is risky, but also incredibly strategic. Because when you attack a position from multiple angles, you increase your chances of hitting on at least one difference maker. But there's a catch. Because if they miss on these picks, this entire plan could fall apart faster than anyone expects. What if the most important wide receiver the San Francisco 49ers are evaluating right now isn't a first-round star, but a late-round gamble almost nobody is paying attention to? That's where Caleb Douglas enters the picture. On paper, he doesn't stand out in the way top prospects do. He's not projected to go early, he's not dominating headlines, and yet behind the scenes, the 49ers are taking a serious look at him, and that alone tells you there's something more here. Because Douglas has traits you can't teach. At 6'3" with legitimate deep speed, he fits the exact mold of a vertical threat. The kind of receiver who can stretch the field, force defenses to back off, and open space for everything underneath. And when you turn on the tape, you see flashes of it: long strides, explosive separation downfield. And the ability to turn a single mistake by a defender into a massive gain. It's raw, but it's real. And that's what makes this so intriguing. Douglas wasn't always this player. At Florida, he was just another name in the rotation, limited production, limited impact. But after transferring to Texas Tech, something changed. He became their leading receiver, more confident, more aggressive, more dangerous. That kind of late breakout always gets attention from NFL teams. But here, the problem, and it's a big one. Consistency. Drops have followed him. Concentration lapses show up at the worst moments. The kind of mistakes that can stall drives and frustrate quarterbacks. And for a team like the 49ers, where timing and precision matter, that's not a small concern, it's a potential deal breaker. So now you're looking at a player with real upside and very real risk. And that's exactly why this feels like a gamble. Because if everything clicks, Douglas could become a steal, a late-round weapon who outperforms his draft position and gives the offense a completely new dimension. But if those flaws don't get fixed, he might never fully translate to the next level. And that's what makes this decision so dangerous, because the gap between boom and bust here is razor thin. What if the San Francisco 49ers are seriously considering a player who doesn't actually fit their system right now? That's the uncomfortable reality when you look at Caleb Douglas. Because the issue isn't talent, it's fit. In college, Douglas thrived as a Z receiver lined up off the line, free from heavy contact, often in motion, and rarely forced to deal with aggressive press coverage. That role allowed him to use his speed, his stride, and his natural feel for space to create big plays downfield. But the NFL, especially in San Francisco, is different. This offense demands versatility. It demands toughness. And more than anything, it demands receivers who can do the dirty work. Blocking in the run game isn't optional here, it's part of the identity. It's how this system creates explosive plays before the ball is even thrown. And that's where things get complicated. Douglas hasn't consistently shown that side of his game, not because he can't, but because he hasn't had to. His college role didn't require it. His system didn't emphasize it. So now, projecting him into this offense becomes less about what he is and more about what he can become. And that's a risky bet. Because it's not just about adding weight or getting stronger, it's about mindset. Will he embrace the physicality? Will he commit to blocking when the play isn't designed for him? Will he adapt to a role that demands more than just catching passes? Those are questions you can't fully answer on tape. And then there's the X-receiver role, the position that often lines up on the line of scrimmage, facing the defense's best corner, dealing with press coverage snap after snap. Douglas has the frame to grow into that role, but right now, he hasn't proven he can handle it. So you're asking him to learn multiple new skills at the highest level. That's not a small transition, that's a complete transformation. Which means if the 49ers do take this chance, they're not drafting a finished product, they're drafting a project. And if that development doesn't happen fast enough, this experiment could backfire in a big way. What if the most important part of the San Francisco 49ers draft strategy has nothing to do with what happens on the field? Because behind every visit, every meeting, and every quiet workout, there's something far more valuable being evaluated. The player's mindset. When prospects like Caleb Douglas walk into the building, the 49ers aren't just watching film or measuring speed. They're asking deeper questions. How does he think? How does he respond to pressure? Is he coachable? Does he fit the culture? Because talent alone isn't enough in this system. This is a team that demands accountability, physicality, selflessness, especially from wide receivers where blocking, effort, and attitude often matter just as much as production. And those traits, you can't fully measure them from highlights. That's why these visits matter so much. And in Douglas' case, there's an added layer. His connection with Ricky Pearsall gives the 49ers something most teams don't have: inside intel. They've already done deep research on Pearsall before drafting him. They've studied that Florida locker room. They've seen how players interacted, how they trained, how they carried themselves. So when Douglas shows up now, it's not a first impression. It's a continuation of a file that's been building for years. And that's where things get even more interesting. Because this team has a history of playing the long game. They were interested in Christian Kirk coming out of college, and years later they finally brought him in. That kind of patience isn't sluchakratkoi, it's part of how they operate. They gather information early, they track development over time, and when the moment is right, they act. Which means this visit might not just be about this draft. It could be about something much bigger down the line. Because even if Douglas isn't the pick, the 49ers are still learning, still collecting data, still building options for the future. And that's what makes this process so unpredictable. Because sometimes the player they study today isn't the one they're planning to use tomorrow. What if everything you think you know about the NFL draft is completely wrong? Because when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers, one truth stands above everything else. This process is far more unpredictable than anyone wants to admit. Every year, fans and analysts obsess over mock drafts. They lock in names, they debate exact picks, they argue over who will go at 27 or 58 as if it's already decided. But inside NFL buildings, it doesn't work like that. Not even close. Front offices don't chase certainty, they prepare for chaos. Boards shift, players fall, trades happen out of nowhere, and in a matter of minutes, an entire strategy can flip on its head. The 49ers understand this better than most. Because they've lived it. No one expected Brock Purdy to become what he is today. Pick 262, the last selection in the draft, a name almost nobody believed in, and now one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. That alone tells you everything. It's not about where you're picked, it's about what happens after. And yet, every year the same mistake repeats itself. People get attached to projections, they treat pre-draft takes like guarantees, and when reality doesn't match expectations, they struggle to adjust. The 49ers don't operate like that. They focus on the bigger picture. Right now, that picture is clear. Their offense is aging, the timeline is shifting, and they need to inject youth, speed, and long-term upside into the roster. Wide receiver is a major part of that, but it's not the only part. Which means they can't afford to lock into one plan. They have to stay flexible. Because the moment they don't, that's when mistakes happen. So while everyone else is trying to predict the exact pick, the 49ers are preparing for every possible outcome. And when draft night finally arrives, they won't be reacting, they'll be ready. But even with all that preparation, one unexpected move could still change everything in seconds.